Welcome back to Bailiwick of Guernsey Shipwrecks. I'm GP Falaise, and this is the channel where we take you on a couple of relaxing dives. My first dive, I've been roped into a bit of a mission, is to go down and check on Richard's tidal flow meter. So this is an instrument that gets put on the seabed, measures the strength of the current and direction. So Richard just put it back in the water for after a long duration, give it a little test to make sure it's performing properly. Normally it wouldn't be attached to the surface with a rope to a buff. Normally it'd just be on the seabed on its own. So what I said I'd do is I'd come down, I will try and disconnect it from this rock it's attached to. That's more fate than anything else. If there's a tiny bit that's something on the seabed, it will catch around it. So not that would have caused any issues for his winch, because his winch would have just picked that thing clean up. So I've come down to the bottom, I've unhooked that little bit there. I'm now going to continue along the rope, now it's taken off of that, and try and find the base and the tidal flow meter itself. So as you can tell, I'm heading down one of what we call the trenches, which is the old power line. And as the tide then pulls the buff tighter, now it's disconnected from the rock, it will start heading in a northerly direction. There's quite a bit of rope on this. There was always going to be a chance that I'd get a scallop or two along the rope. The swim is quite a bit further than I was expecting, to be honest. Using up loads of air. We're about 21 metres. This is a little bit of the Beaufort wreckage. Just an old plate. There's actually two big lumps here. And we should be seeing it any second. And where is it? Here it is, finally. Basically, it looks like the Olympic torch that's slid down inside a tube with a big fat plate on the bottom. Basically, just check my air, 210. I've used 40 bar up, just trying to find this. 19 metres, 19.5 metres. So I'll do a little quick pan around to show you what it is. It's basically a flat plate with a tube on it, and the tidal flow meter sticks in through the top. The information it gathers is then sold as data to other companies that require the data. Normally this wouldn't be just sitting outside Guernsey Harbour. This would be up in the race of Alderney, or some areas that scope's already been done to figure out if it's viable to generate electricity from tidal stream energy. So that's us. I need to get back up now because this is I need to use the rest of this air on another tank. So the agreement was give it 5 minutes and Richard will start winching the plate up to the surface for a recovery. So nice and easy, I'm just holding on to the rope here and getting towed up. It's easier than swimming. Obviously I've left a bit of distance between me and the plate because if that plate coming up underneath me could cause me a bit of hassle. Right, I'm up to my sort of safety stop level now. I'll let go and swim away as the plate continues its way to the surface. As I've got no buff that goes back up to the surface, I send up my delayed SMB to just tell Richard where I am. But like an angel from above, I think Richard can actually see where I am anyway. Right, back in the boat and then back in the sea straight away. This time with Mish. Mish is coming down with me. Down this is the Yacht Club Boy. This is the first one outside Anfray, so this is the first one you hit before you get down to Havelock Bay. We use it as a bit of a reference guide. We drop in near it and we'll just drop down the back. This has been located near a really nice reef and it's quite a nice dive, to be honest. And it's amazing when you've got a reference guide of rather than rope, actual chain, you can see how fast or how slow it takes to get down to 24 meters. First things first, when we get to the bottom, we normally check our depth and we normally check our bottom time available, and also we'll check our air, just to make sure it's going down. There's nothing worse than actually having the wrong reg in your mouth. And believe me, on my gear it's quite easy to do, because they're both black. So my air's definitely going down. I did put a new tank on in the end, and I used the first tank on the second dive, if that makes sense. Nice big reefs everywhere. As you can see, the chain from this mooring sweeps the reef and trying to almost clears it of all loose growth. Not that it's the end of the world, as there is so much more life around this place. So let's get ourselves ready, get my torches on. They need to be spaced perfectly apart, otherwise you get the horrible sort of half circle in the middle. Is that a scallop? Nope. Nope, let's carry on. As the tide is going south, obviously we head in a southerly direction. Down towards Fermain. Water depth here is between 25 and 30 metres, and the further west we go, the shallower it gets. So we can kind of plan our dives that way. So, today we're on a little bit of a mission to have a look at the smaller stuff again. I've got a macro now, so we might as well use it. Mish is well into her nudibranchs, and she's trying to collect as many as she can. And when I say collect as many as she can, that's images. It's a crevice sea cucumber. All this stuff that we see around here is pretty typical of the Channel Islands. There's nothing that's new, but it's still very interesting to see, to be honest, because a lot of the stuff, I bet you, if you ask the people on the street what they'd think is in Guernsey water, they wouldn't have a clue that this is here. It's the bottom of a pottery. Looks like a plant pot, but I don't think it is. I think it was to carry food. And these were like a terracotta pot, and the bottom half was dipped in black paint, tar lock and stuff. I can't remember what it's called. There is a special name for it. If you know what it is, put it in the comments. Let's take a good look around here, because this is where you're going to see the nudibranchs. They feed on all these hydroids, which are these smaller, sort of greyish looking, horrible sort of looking little plants. So I'm sure we're going to see a load around here. Oh. Well, this is cool. The size of this fan. It's typical of Guernsey, 3-dimensional. They should be grown as a fan, as in one plane, almost 2D, but these are 3D. And Mish has just pointed out there's actually nudibranchs on it. So you see these fatty bits in the middle, on the top of this, on the right hand side? Well, right in the centre of the screen. That's actually a Red Sea nudibranch, and there's also one to my right as well. See, I wouldn't notice that darker orange part. I never would have seen that if I was on my own. To be honest, I probably wouldn't have stopped and even had a look. So that's why it's quite nice to dive with loads of different people. They got different aims or different things they want to do on the dive, and that's what's quite nice to go with Mish, because she points out all the smaller stuff. And the best thing for me is she educates me on stuff, because I mean, I try looking up stuff, I look at stuff, and then 10 minutes later I'm kind of onto the next thing. So it's quite nice to get someone to do all the research for me, in a way. And I actually learn it, believe it or not. So we're picking up a few small scallops around the reef. You tend to get divers up around these reefs quite often, because it's kind of like an interface. So you tend to see the first few metres away from the reef has already been picked. There's some little worms in here. There's all sorts of stuff on here, to be honest. Some orange sea squirts, some gem, these little egg things, not quite sure what they are. There's always loads of old rope and loads of cable from old trawls around here because it's close proximity to the harbour. So what would you do back in the day? Probably just chuck it over the side rather than take it into Guernsey. It's unfortunate, but it happened. And yeah, this time back in them days, there's some chain here. Back in them days, that's what they did. A bit like the Victorians in their time, buried all the rubbish in their back gardens. So let's have another good little look, see what we can find. I find the issue of looking at the smaller bits of sea life is there's just so much to look at. Basically, you just pick a square metre and just browse that square metre. I'm not used to doing it. I'm used to doing the bigger picture. Tell you what, the smaller stuff I think is probably the better looking. It's not until you get right and close to all these bits of sea life you realise how sort of intricate they are. All a little community, all on their own. Mind you, I still do like looking at the big fish. Look at this huge wrasse. He knows we're here, but he's not coming any closer than that. You tend to see these big wrasse when you look up and you're at the bottom of the reef. They just kind of poke their nose over the edge, exerting their dominance of the area, no doubt. Like I say, so many places to look. And for instance, this crab pot looks quite normal, just a lost crab pot, not really doing anything apart from polluting the ocean, until you actually take a really good close look at it. And it wasn't me that noticed these, it was Mish. It's absolutely covered in nudibranchs. Now, I don't really know much about nudibranchs, but one thing I do realise is they do actually like to go on these crab pots, because the first thing that grows on them are these hydroids, is what they feed on. So if you are out there and you're looking for some, take a look at these old crab pots. Take a really good close look. And I think there's at least two different varieties on this one. One I've never seen before, which is like a Like a white one with loads of tiny little yellow dots on. Put her in macro mode. This one here, right in the middle of the screen. Well, that's enough of that for one day. Let's carry on to the next thing. Right, I think it's about time to go up. Numbers, not good. I think we might... probably won't get 2 dozen. Keeney might not let us back on the boat. We'll have to see. Yeah, he let us back on the boat, but then he told us to get straight back down again. So this is back on for, well, my third dive, Mish's second dive. And we are down near the harbour. Well, tucked in near Castle Corner. Near Oyster Rock. Richard was nice enough to let us do a surface interval, so we've off gassed a little bit, so we should be good. We're only going shallow, around about 10 to 12 metres, and staying there around reefs, just looking for scallops, just taking our time. Normally there's some other stuff to look at, some interesting things. So, not too much seaweed growth around here, which is good for collecting scallops. We don't like it when it's like a lettuce field, where there's seaweed everywhere and it's at least 4 or 5 inches deep. Becomes very awkward to see the scallops unless they gape. And when they gape, obviously you see the sand coming out the side and it gives away their hiding space. Plenty of lost crab pots, especially this variety which is called the inkwell. They're only really that good for spider crabs. I mean, they're a favourite in Guernsey, but not everyone uses them. They're mainly the krill pots or the parlour pots. Very well camouflaged crab there. Looks like another really hard place to start scalloping. Plenty of seaweed, really hard to spot them. But we're doing our best, along with the pot lines and pot ropes that go up above our head. Strung across between reefs, we managed to weave our way through. Right up alongside the reefs. Absolute massive clam. This isn't what I'm looking for, so this one can go back. Let's take a look right up alongside this reef. Feather duster worm. And my lock's changed. I've finally found one. Thank God for that. It's so embarrassing going back to the surface with none at all. I haven't actually done it before, so I don't want to start doing it now.
Right, it's time to go. Right, on.
Yeah, now we're in an area that no one's been. Well, for a while anyway.
Wow.
Always plenty of bottles, always take a little look. That one was a smooth, so there's no embossing on it, didn't say a name. Probably a 1970/80 Stranger's bottle, when bottled water was a big thing. That is humongous. This is probably one of the reasons why we haven't found any scallops around here. Now, I'm pretty sure there's a scallop underneath this thing. I'm not going to move it or touch it because he's probably spent a long time trying to track this down. It's a big one though. Look at mission of that round. A scallop swimming by. Cool. I like that. Let's carry on. That's a new species to me. I haven't got a clue what type of thing that is. I know it's an anemone of some sort. I'm not quite sure which one. What's this? Plastic cog for some reason. Let's carry on. Another one, too small. So many small ones around here. It's a huge sea hare there, that black thing. Looks like a nudibranch, but it's not. It's basically a herbivore and it's got a really soft internal shell. Those are the two characteristics that make it different. They're the things that you sometimes catch as fishermen and you stamp on them by mistake and they give out like a blue iodine. Whoa, Mish, that's huge. The reason I come over to check this because it looked like a cannibal from far away, but it isn't. Given its proximity to the castle, potentially it could have been. Could have been a blind that didn't really go that far, but no, not this time. We've now come out from behind the reef and you can see that the tide whizzes through here by the shapes it's left in the seabed. Further we come out around the corner, the different seabed has changed yet again. Now we can see a very small eelgrass bed. Probably one that hasn't been logged with the eelgrass people, but if you're watching, anyone, yep. On the outside of Oyster Rock there is this very small eelgrass bed. Don't ask me to fill out any paperwork because I won't. But if you want to check it out, it's here. And there's a nice scallop inside there. As far as eelgrass beds go, this one is pretty small, probably only about 20 square metres, maybe 30 square metres at a push. There's a little wrasse come out to see us. I think we scared him. You notice this is when they're out on in the open, this is what the spider crabs would do. If they see you and they sense you as a threat, they would always do this, where they knock their claws together. They don't tend to do this on the reef, more so when they're out in an unprotected area, especially the sand. We're actually starting to run out of air now. We didn't start with a full tank, so we're going to be thinking about heading up. This will hook her bag to my bag because it's easier me reeling up. And again, we've just been washed into a crab pot line here. So we're going to skip over the top and then work our way back up. I must admit it was hard pickings, but we done okay-ish given the fact that we only done maybe 100 bar, but it was nice and shallow and enjoyable. We had something like that at Sea Cadets.
Nice, eh?
It was like a 6-foot dinghy in an open brambles.
Yeah, and you had to row everywhere.
Yeah. Times have changed.
It's good for you, apparently.
Character building. Anyway, while we leave you shopping your scallops, we're going to go and get a coffee.
Probably here before you, I would think.
I think you're right there.
At the speed you get changed. If you didn't stop talking, you'd be right.